This is the final word. T20 World Cup Daily, day 26 and final. The last one. Jeff Lemon, Adam Collins, brought to you by CBUS Super. Making hard work pay off. Been a bit of hard work getting through this World Cup, but we have come to the end. We're outside the Melbourne Cricket Ground. We saw Pakistan play England tonight. If you don't know what happened yet, you're about to find out, because Adam is going to tell you about an entire match of cricket in the space of 30 seconds or less.
Josh Buttler won the toss, elected to bowl, which proved to be a good decision. They kept Pakistan to 68 runs in the first 10 overs, not too dissimilar to how it was in the semi-final. Then a flurry of wickets, 5 for 45, starting with Babar Azam, who was caught by Adil Rashid off his own bowling. They only get to 137 for 8, only 31 runs in the death overs, which felt like England were in pole position. And that was true to the extent to which they always had the run rate under control, but they did lose 3 wickets in the power play. There was a wobble, especially between overs 10 and 14. They required 43 from the last 31, I think it was. Then Stokes in control with Moeen Ali. They broke the back of it at the perfect time. Stokes unbeaten 50-something, the first time he made 50 ever in the format of the game that he's playing for England in. And they're victorious by 6 wickets with a couple of balls, a few balls at over, so to speak.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And it was curious that this was the moment, because people kept bringing up that, Ben Stokes has never made a 50 in T20 internationals. Of course, he does it in the final to win them a trophy after not winning them a trophy in 2016 when his bowling got bashed around. And you will read a million pieces on that, so we probably don't need to go on about that at length. But a lot of it came down to power play again. Kept banging on about it. Pakistan, they were so nervous early. Babar Azam, Mohammad Rizwan coming out, poking the ball around. They nearly caused a run out about 6 different times during the power play. There was that one sort of pick-up shot for 6 from Rizwan, but aside from that, it was tapping singles away into the leg side, that sort of thing. And then when Rizwan got out, well, I mean, it was kind of painful to watch, wasn't it? Young Mohammed Harris, who came in, and he did his job in a way, which was to swing as hard as he could and try to score as quickly as possible. He just couldn't lay bat on ball. His first 6 deliveries, he couldn't score from.
That's right, 7 balls to get off the market. It was an entirely tortured stay at the crease. In hindsight, they should have set Shaheen Afridi out at 3 and kept Mohammed Harris back. But I can understand why they made that call with, there was 10 balls left in the power play or something like that when he got to the middle. And then England were able to put the screws on in a kind of similar way to what they did against India with Adil Rashid. 1 for 20 from 4, I think it was.
2 for 22.
2 for 22, 1 for 20 in the semi-final, sorry, beg your pardon. But getting Babar Azam with a sharp spun wrong just when Babar Azam looked like he was ready to kind of ride with Shaheen Afridi up the gears. Instead, good piece of fielding from Adil Rashid, who's not necessarily known for it. Often he hides on the circle on the edge of the 45 as he's been advancing in years in recent times. But that proved to be decisive as far as the way they were up to the clamp sign. I mentioned in the summary, 5 for 45 from 45 balls from that juncture. I think there were 5 overs in a row at one point when they lost wickets, and they had no blood going to it at the end because they just kept having blokes hole out. It was reminiscent of when Bangladesh lost their bundle against India in that chase at Adelaide a couple of weeks ago. Same kind of energy. They were trying their best to swing, but it was the death bowling of Jordan and Curran. Jordan, who came into the side because Mark Wood was injured. Wood didn't get up for the final. I think there was a view doing the rounds that Jordan was finished as an international cricketer. He's got a central contract, but that his best cricket was a long way behind him, and he was a bit of a liability in the death overs until the semi-final. He was going at 9.7 runs and over in T20Is in 2022, which would kind of bolster that point. But they've always loved his experience. They've always loved the all-round package that he brings. And he did the job along with Sam Curran, who somehow wasn't in the team of the tournament, despite taking 13 wickets at 11, I think. An economy rate of 6.6, I think, and a strike rate of 10. I know that's inflated by what happened tonight. The tournament teams picked before the World Cup final, but a splendid performance from a guy who, from time to time, you were told vociferously by people on the internet, isn't very good.
Well, 3 for 12 in the final, but bearing in mind he got smashed around to the tune of 42, I think it was, in the semi-final. So none for 42 from 4, and then 3 for 12 from 4.
Unspecability.
Things can change a lot in a short period of time. Stokes opened the bowling, got through an over early. It was sort of clever from England. They've been hiding a Stokes over at the start of the power play. Curran bowled well in the power play as well. That lack of urgency from the Pakistan openers that I mentioned earlier. And it was just those 2 crucial interventions. The one point where Babar Azam started to hit out a bit, looked like he was going to get going. He's 38 of 27 at that point and starting to speed up. And then Rashid with the caught and bowled. And then the point where Shaheen Afridi gets out, where he came in and played beautifully.
That cover drive. stunner.
Yeah, and he scored quickly. You know, there's all of this stuff about Shan Masood. You got 4 openers in the team. He's a sheet anchor. You know, wrong format, etc., etc. He played very briskly. He played proper cricket shots, and he scored it well over a run of ball. And scored quickly tonight. But he takes on the short ball from Sam Curran, and he hits it out to deep mid wicket. And you know, fair enough. You've got to take a risk sometimes. It didn't work. Those are the 2 real derailing points for Pakistan.
Yeah, I agree. Just go backing over Shaheen a little bit. He never played T20 international cricket consistently until 5 minutes ago. I don't think he played at all. I think that's the bill against England recently, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he wasn't in any real thinking for short form cricket until he went to Derbyshire. Had a really good blast. Also had a really good PSL. It should be noted. But yeah, it's proof, I think, that if you play traditional cricket shots, there still is a role for you in T20 international cricket. He doesn't have that bigger, exhaustive bag of tricks, but he can place balls other side of the men inside the circle. He is clever. He's resourceful without being extravagant. And I think
you've just got to do it quickly enough.
That's right. There's a difference in him and, like I was going to say, the contrast between the conversations. You've been strident about thinking as they play in the short form game for Williamson and Smith and others you talked about through the tournament in modern T20 cricket.
It's just not the way that Williamson's currently playing. I mean, Williamson in the past has been a great T20 player. He just currently
Sure. But the myriad players you said shouldn't be playing anymore. Theoretically, Shaheen Masood should fit into that. If you're looking at them purely on numbers, he should be in that slipstream, but he's not because he's found a way to translate that test game into being a T20 player here and
MCG specialist after the India-Pakistan game where he played so well too. And I mean, it's notable. I think there's a lot to think about with T20 openers, where if you're in the Babar Azam-Mohammad Rizwan partnership and you think, well, we're the 2 best players in our team. So they're going out, they're thinking, well, we can't afford to get out. That's not how you're supposed to play as a T20 opener. You can't afford to play like that.
And they didn't really play like that until recently. Babar Azam's strike rate when he was the top player in the world was 145. Rizwan's been consistently above 150. I think he just ticks over. No, he falls 3 runs short of reaching 1,000 runs in the calendar year with 10 half centuries. The strike rate of low 140s.
Yeah.
It's like just this tournament.
It's this tournament that's done it into people. And it's variable. There are times when the bowling's better and where the conditions are more difficult and so on, but there was a real lack of looking for those opportunities, and there was a lot of looking for risky singles that nearly got the run out.
Yeah, that's true. And the other player who couldn't get going, unfortunately, was Iftikhar Ahmed, who made a great half century against Pakistan here, 51 more against South Africa when Pakistan were in quite the spot of bother. We talked about it after their semi-final win, that the probability of them qualifying for the semi-finals at that point was 3%. It was Iftikhar Ahmed that got them out of that hole. Today, he helped dig the hole. 6 scoreless deliveries, then gets to Stokes snorter. Stokes bowled 3 deliveries in that over. I can't remember what it was, but it was in the back 10. That spat off a length. One of them catches the glove at Iftikhar. He's gone for a 6-ball duck, and that's the. We're going to talk about Stokes again in a moment, I'm sure, with the batting. But his all-round worth. I know he takes some tap at the very, very end, but getting through 4 overs, bowling over number 1, bowling over number 7. The all-round Stokes package was there for all to see again tonight.
And then when they come out to bat, I mean, England have a modest chase, but you're thinking, well, if there's one team that isn't going to just stick around in the power play and pat it around, it's England. They can't, they won't. They might just have a look at this first Shaheen Afridi over. And the delivery that goes through Alex Hales it's vintage Shaheen. It's what he's kept doing. It's why he's so dangerous. Left arm coming from an incredible height, swinging in. Hales has a sort of vague attempt to try to hit it, but what can he really do?
Hales himself said afterwards that great ball, but I didn't move my feet, which is right. Both things are true. It was a great ball and he didn't move his feet. But you get that early in the inning, second ball up, you're not going to hit many of those, I don't expect. And Shaheen, looked like a man possessed tonight, and he and Harris Routh both, they were really fired up. They believed they were going to do this. And down the other end, you got Naseem Shah, who bowled one of the more staggering overs I've seen in international cricket, where he conceded 11 runs despite beating the bat 5 times in that over. You do the math on that. That was where he had a 5 wides when he tried to go 2 straight early in the over. Then Butler, on the 1 ball he got bat on, went across his stumps and lapped him for 6. Ostentatious, to say the least. More a scoop than a lap, that's right. And then 5 times either side of that, Naseem Shah goes beyond the blade with the most stunning group of outswingers. If you wanted to be super critical, you could say, if you pitch it up an extra 1.5 foot from there, you're bringing Butler forward. But Butler prodding from the crease, edges none of them. And in the end, he's probably taken none for 30 from his 4. pressing fast forward a little bit, but after over 10, when they put the clamp on again, Nassim beat the bat 5 times another over, but moving it the other way to Ben Stokes. Look, he's not on the winning side tonight. Hasn't worked out well for him, obviously, but this will be a moment I reckon we look back on in Nassim Shah's young career and say that contributed to the making of him.
That's. I mean, there have been many times when you knew that he had the talent, the ability, the goods, but another one tonight. Interesting with England's power play, like they lose 3 wickets in the power play, and Pakistan should be cock-a-hoop about that. Harris Rauf comes into the game and gets rid of Phil Salt, who finally gets a hit at number 3 after watching on in the semi-final. And then the big one, they get Butler. I mean, the pace on that delivery, the bounce on it. If you can leave Joss Butler in the kind of nick that he's in, unable to do anything with that delivery except poke at it and fend it through to the wicketkeeper who's standing about 90 yards back with the pace that's coming through, you're bowling well. Gorgeous ball, right? 3 in the power play, but England still make 49 in the power play. And I thought that was critical because in a small chase, I mean, Butler still went after it. Phil Salt still gave it a go to try to go after it. They still pushed the scoring. And even in that 6th over after the Butler dismissal, there are still attempts to swing the bat. There are still attempts to score quickly with the field up. And so they take enough of a dint out of it that gives Stokes time to do the Stokes thing, take his time, struggle a bit, score slowly. I mean, at one point he's 28 off 35, which is a sort of dire T20 strike rate in just objective terms. But he's got time to do that because that doesn't get him too far behind the asking rate, and then he's able to make up that ground again.
Yeah, that's spot on. I think the dent they put in the power play didn't offset the 3 wickets because it included Hales and Butler, remembering that no one in England's middle order had fired a shot with the exception of the unbeaten 42 that Stokes made against Sri Lanka. And you've got to go all the way back.
In a real grind, in the kind of innings where he was allowed to play an ODI innings.
Very, very similar to the game tonight as far as what the asking rate was that night. And the 29 not out in no time that Livingston made way back against Afghanistan on opening night. You take those 2 innings out and none of them have done anything. So Stokes, I think, understanding the circumstances, in the same way that we credited Butler and Hales for making a calculated decision about playing India in the power play in that chase, it felt something similar happened with Stokes. It's like, well, I need to play a 1-day innings. The run rate required is probably never going to be an issue. I need to be there at the end. It's like playing the innings that suited the circumstances. Had England needed 9 or 10 and over, I'm sure he would have modified his game accordingly. The fact that he wasn't hitting them well, in a way, might have helped because he wasn't he played a couple of wild shots off. I think it was Harris Rauf in his 3rd over when he tried to deposit him over mid-wicket. Both of them, they went up the court behind. Both of them went underneath the bat, just underneath the bat. But with those 2 whooshes aside, he played fairly conservative, traditional, 10 years ago, 1-day cricket. But that's what was required to win the trophy. So much as it was with Stokes in the 2019 World Cup final, he's 84 not out, only really had the foot down for the last, 2.5, 3 overs?
And it's worth remembering the first, I'd say 44 runs, he's having a horrible day. Can't time it, doesn't get one out of the middle of the bat. Dragging singles off the inside half, outside edge, all the rest of it. 2019. Up until halfway through that innings, and only then does it start to click. So they've given him the time, they've given him the luxury and breathing space to do that. I mean, Harry Brook makes a few, but slowly as well, similarly struggling along. It's probably almost a good thing for England when he gets out, brings Moeen in, who's able to play a little bit more positively. But so much of the turning point comes down to Shaheen Afridi, whose knee has gone. He comes back, he gamely tries to bowl an over, he gets through 1 delivery and he says, my leg's not working, I can't do it. Has to get replaced by Iftikhar Ahmed, and the last 2 balls of that over go for 4 and 6 from Moeen. Next over, 3 boundaries in the over from Mohammad Wasim Jr. And that's pretty much it. They basically killed the contest from a point where the runs required to balls remaining ratio was almost in Pakistan's favour at that point.
Yeah, just to go back a little bit to those 5 overs between the light show at the halfway mark of the chase, which is pretty cool. I've never been here for one of those before. I know they're become increasingly part of the offering here in football, but it was a really nice long reset. And they came out, the next over, I think it was a Shut-Up Khan made it, or maybe it was one off the over. The next over was Nassim Shah's second 5 balls beating the bat over with Ben Stokes literally laughing at how good this kid bowling at him. Then the over after that, over 13, that's when Harry Brook falls. Caught it long off. And you're right, as far as the scoring rate had dropped a little bit. They hadn't quite gone anywhere. Well, let's put it this way: they hadn't dropped below the Duckworth-Lewis asking rate. There was some drizzle in the air at that exact moment. But that wicket put them right back touching distance of it. And on our commentary, we're like, well, if it rains right now, England are world champions, but they're 1 wicket away from dropping behind in the same way that South Africa did when playing against Pakistan. So, and you're right, that's where Moeen comes out instead of Liam Livingstone, and they do in that space of time, I wrote it down somewhere, but they needed, I think, 43 from 31. And at the start of that over 15, Harris Ralph, who'd done such an admirable job in the field, he threw himself around, he saved one run, diving across in front of the Ponsford stand, sprinting like it was the Olympic final to keep it in. 1 over later, I think it was 1 over later, gets a really good look at 2.5 stumps. Ben Stokes would have been run out for 25 or something at that juncture. And I reckon Pakistan, if Stokes goes there, they're a decent chance of winning that game. Instead, last ball of that same over, maybe the next over, I think it was that over, hits a boundary out through cover, gives them a bit of breathing space. Shaheen Afridi back on the field like a professional wrestler coming back down, having been nobbled. Goes down. Shaheen Afridi, because he took the catch, remember, at long off to get rid of Brooke. I don't know how he hurt himself taking that catch. He did the patent celebration on the turf with his arm spread.
Yeah, because he nearly dropped it, that's why.
But how did he hurt himself doing that? We couldn't quite tell.
No, nor could I. But just, I mean, he hit the ground heavily. He ended up on his back, having just somehow managed to cling on. He was shitting himself, basically. And I'm not sure what he did on the way down.
Well, still, he comes back on. He's talking to the physio beneath our comm box, and I was saying, look, he's no good here. I mean, he's back on because they need to have him on the field for however many minutes before he can bowl again. Bowls one ball, as you say, it comes out at rat power speed. Then they immediately replace him. He's back off the field again. Iftikhar Ahmed has, I think, 13 runs from that over, 16 runs from Mohammad Wasim Jr.'s next over. You add the boundary on from the last ball of the previous over, I think that was Harris Ralph. It ended up being 33 runs from 11 deliveries, I think. And that was finally, at long last, back broken of the chase. And that's through Moeen Ali's intervention, who probably had a bit of a license to try and lift the tempo just a little bit, because someone's got to do it, and Stokes is batting through. Moeen hits a 6, a couple of 4s, one top edge, and that's game over. By that stage, it's a matter of, well, they have to use Harris Ralph to bowl over 18. They've got nobody left. It's got to be Iftikhar Ahmed and Mohammad Wasim Jr. at the end. Mohammad Wasim Jr. is having a shit night, and Iftikhar had 13 taken from 5 balls.
Yeah, exactly that. And I mean, that whole Pakistan team's probably a bit rattled at that point. You lose your main weapon, your strike bowler, and others have to chip in. And after that big over, it's less than 6 and over at that point, so they're able to pretty much knock it around from having made things relatively difficult for themselves considering the size of the chase. So look, England get the job done. I mean, Harris Ralph ends up performing admirably. He's the one who actually comes through with decent figures, who's got 2 for 23 of his 4. One of those hold your head high in a losing cause sort of efforts, gave it everything. But it was disappointing. For me, it was a really disappointing showing from a Pakistan team that had brought a lot of energy. And I know I've banged on about it, but I think that tone's set by your captain and your other lead batter when they go out to start the innings and they're poking along at 5 or 6 and over. There was no energy in it at different times tonight, and we wanted to see a Pakistan team bring more than that. But England, they've managed to do the consummate professional thing. Their first game of this tournament was awful. They struggled to get 112 against Afghanistan. They lose to the Irish. By the point they get washed out against Australia, it's a coin toss as to who that suits more. Out of those two teams that were struggling at the time. Yeah, because it means that neither of them, they both stay alive in the tournament. But I mean, England, I wouldn't have necessarily fancied England winning that game at that point, and maybe they're out at that stage. They managed to come good against New Zealand. They managed to do what they need to do against Sri Lanka, flourish in the semi-final, and then they come through here and it's workmanlike, but they get the job done. And I think that's really important in the overall standing of this England outfit as a white ball team from 2015. When they did the renovations, they gutted the place, they re-stumped it, they put in a new kitchen and all the rest. And this team isn't the Owen Morgan team. They're missing Jason Roy, they're missing Johnny Bairstow. They don't have some of those big players who pushed them here, but they've sealed another world title, another white ball championship, and I think that locks in the legacy.
I think there's a bit of both here. So 6 of the 11 players that took the field at Calcutta in the World Cup final in 2016 were out there today. There is that kind of through line. I know Morgan's not there, and Johnny Bairstow, who would have been if not for injury, but there is that kind of core. And I think it's important though, I think 4 of them played in the World Cup final in 19 as well in the 50 over format. So there are guys who are conditioned to playing in high stakes games, winner takes all stuff. Sometimes they've won, sometimes they've lost, but they're a bit older as well. Adil Rashid has played in every England T20 World Cup going back to 2009, I think it is.
Right.
Chris Jordan's playing his 5th World Cup. I mean, Josh Butler's been there for over a decade, likewise Ben Stokes, likewise Moeen Ali now, he's been going around since 2014. So there's quite a few players there who know what it is to have the highs and the lows and can bring what you need to bring to a major final. It doesn't matter what's going on at this ground. It's a major event. It does create a different energy. Like I have a slightly different view about the way Pakistan went about it. I think they were bull at a gate when defending 137 at the start. There was no lack of energy from the seam.
No, not once they were on the field. It's more the batting performance.
Right, well, sure, but nevertheless, like they did limp to the line and they did come out firing with the ball. I think Babar Azam didn't have a great night. Like it felt like he was kind of always one step behind or one move behind.
It feels like he often is as a captain.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate because like when they choose to deploy Shaheen, there was probably a case for going again with Shaheen between overs 6 and 10 or 6 and 13, let's say.
Yep.
But they had a plan and they were sticking to it. They weren't sort of nimble enough to evolve. And just stepping back from England and the way they've won this tournament, I reckon the best thing that ever happened to England and Australia and the comp at large is the fact that was rained out. That game takes place here at the G. Either Australia or England are eliminated inside the first week of the Super 12s. Remember, they started on the Saturday. That was the first Friday. Between times, Australia had lost to New Zealand and England had lost to Ireland here at the G only a few days prior. If they get on that day and England, as you say, toss of a coin who would have won that game. Instead, because of the rain, we ended up having a group that went all the way down to the final day. So and also gave England a chance to regroup. A precious time in the middle of a tournament to stop, prop, and get their shit together. They beat New Zealand. They do what they need to do to get over the top of Sri Lanka. They have the perfect game against India. And tonight, it was their bowlers. And who would have thought, losing Mark Wood, who was superb with all of these threefers and bowling so quickly and the natural point of difference that gives you. He didn't play any elimination games. It was a veteran in Chris Jordan. Sam Curran, who a number of...
That's poignant that Mark Wood misses that game and David Milan misses this game as well. Yeah. The chance to be part of it.
Yeah, I agree. And David Milan's made more T20 runs for England than anyone this year. And, contrary to the abuse he cops online, has been an incredibly effective T20 player for England for a number of years.
Yeah.
At the MCG, we spoke about Shaheen Afridi. I reckon the MCG would suit David Milan in a T20. Some more gaps and thus more opportunities to manipulate the game rather than having to sort of hoof it over the road.
Yeah.
And Wood would have been well suited to a lively surface, as we saw with Harris Raff and Nasim Shah. But it was England's bowlers, who we don't really think an awful lot about, really, do we? We're not sort of talking about Chris Jordan being a match winner. 2 for 27 in a World Cup final. Sam Curran running in, bowling at sort of 84 mile an hour or near enough, albeit with lots of variation, but so accurate from that skiddy sort of trajectory. 3 for 12 in a World Cup final. They're the reason why England won tonight. And I'm glad Curran was named player of the match because despite Stokes being there at the end, despite him taking an important wicket in the middle overs, Curran gave them the chance to play the game they wanted to play in the second half.
Final Word Hall of Fame. I think it might be that time for the final. This is where we decide what was the most final word moment of the day. Brought to you by CBUS Super. They look after your money in retirement, make your hard work pay off. cbussuper.com.au.
Past performance is no reliable indicator of future performance. However, 8.8% over 38 years. We've said it throughout. They've been great supporters of us, as you guys know. Been watching and listening to the show through the World Cup. And for those of you who've been with us back to 2019 when CBUS first got on board, they've done the right thing by us and really looked after us and given us a chance to make these sorts of programs. And if you haven't sorted your super out, consider doing so at cbussuper.com.au. We're most grateful for the support.
Now, Hall of Fame, there was one very early on when, it's during the Stokes over, isn't it? The ball is sort of defended away by Mohammad Rizwan, who then picks it up and then turns around and starts to walk away with it back towards his crease, then turns back around and throws it at Ben Stokes, who's got his back turned walking away, and hits him with it. And Ben Stokes looks at it and just sort of points at it saying, well, I'm not picking that up, someone else can pick that up, and walks off. What's going on with that? If they'd appealed, he would have been out.
Yeah, I couldn't quite work out what was going on there either. I was just confused by the whole thing. Like I was when they ended up taking 2 overthrows, which could have been 3 overthrows from a ball that was effectively dead, akin to the Stuart Broad moment at Lords against Holland all those years ago to start that 2009 World Cup. I've got a few bits and pieces to offer up.
Okay.
How about there being a cameraman in the sight screen before the first ball of the World Cup final? I mean, how does that happen? There was a cameraman stuck in the side of wedged in the side of the black meshing. And of all the times to have a cameraman malfunction, that's probably not it. Matthew Mott has won 2 World Cups this year in the space of 7 months. One in the women's game in New Zealand. I think it was the 2nd or 3rd of April in Christchurch tonight. And they had a bad start, right? They lost to India and to South Africa in the home summer. It felt like they were copping pelters that, Bazball was working and red ball cricket was back on track and white ball cricket was...
Sure.
And he has Mike Hussey with him as well. So a couple of Australians sort of in that England inner sanctum that win the comp here. Other stories like Alex Hales, which I find is thoroughly fascinating. That he makes his comeback here and he's influential, in the analysis of England winning the whole thing. Anti-Hall of Fame, though. How about the song they chose to play when England win the World Cup? It's this horrible, I guess it's a Barmy Army thing, where it's like Sol Limbo playing underneath them chanting, "Come on England, come on England." Of all the options the ICC/the Cricket Ground DJ had, when England have won the World Cup, and all the different songs they could pick. Christ, they could have even played Sweet Caroline, which
they did about eventually. 2 minutes after England
but
won.
at that moment,
walking down towards the
I'm
the
detecting
members.
the Sweet Caroline thing as moved from being a bubble thing on finals day, the Euros a couple of years ago, the England women's team at Wembley this year. Now it's found its way back to cricket.
It is potentially excessive, the manner in which it is deployed. Great Southern Land, of course, got another run before the game.
All my campaign, I thought I was being punked twice with that pretty saying Great Southern Land will be played on World Cup final night. I thought maybe that was just the ICC having seen my campaign against it for so long and trying to stitch me up by tweeting about it, so I didn't have a few.
My last nomination, Shaheen Afridi versus Liam Livingstone. Now, for too long in this competition, Liam Livingstone has been allowed to get away with it. England have been bringing him on. He's been bowling nothing, spinners, can do the mix-up job, can bowl a leg break, can bowl an off break. So
better than that against India.
Neither of them do much, slides them down. And no one's been taking him on. They've been letting him get away with 5 off and over, 7 off and over. Shaheen Afridi, the guy who's not supposed to score quickly, comes out and says, "No, this isn't happening." And he takes 16 off the over. Finally, someone did it right against Liam Livingstone. Thank you, Shaheen Afridi.
What I liked about that was that he played the percentages right, the match-up ball spinning back towards him. Indeed, it wasn't even that at all, was it? He became an off-spinner again. Maybe that's the thing, you need to get Livingstone having to kind of change mid-spell when his discipline is to put him off target. Oh, one more thing, how about the England players pitching all the stumps, which they're perfectly entitled to do, at least how I saw it.
Right.
Then an ICC official, or maybe it was an MCG official, it looked like an ICC person, went and
took them all back.
Went up to them and said, "I want them back, please."
Like the Elgin marbles.
I want their stuff. I hope they get the sort of replica stumps from the basement tonight at some point with them, probably celebrating long into the.
Well, certainly the one with the camera in it. They're like, "Don't steal that one."
Yeah, that's fine.
That one's worth a lot of
they
money.
never steal the middle one. They take, leg it off.
But I don't know. They're zing stumps. Does that make them more expensive now? When they used to just be wooden timber jobbies, then sure, knock them off. But maybe not anymore.
Last one from me. I had the binoculars on the England team when they won. I was really David Willey was quite emotional and gesticulating out to the crowd, to his family. And I think he can play a game in this tournament. It's a reminder that
the Tom Curran of 2022.
He is. It's a reminder that these guys who are in the squad go around the country. They ride the highs and lows as well. There was every chance that Willey would have played today. In fact, I thought he was a decent chance with the wide boundaries in the deep pockets and putt road end city, and I thought there was a chance they might go that way. Indeed, I think Owen Morgan said as much in his preview yesterday. He thought that was an option. Doesn't play a game in the trip, still gets a World Cup winners medal.
At least he's in the squad this time, unlike 2019 when he got left out at the last minute.
Yeah, that's true. So it was a nice sort of poignant moment, him clearly looking towards his family and friends in the Olympic stand. I like that.
I think that's all I've got for Hall of Fame. I think, like I said, this was significant for England to be able to get it, and a little cheer up for England supporters who don't often have an enjoyable time of things in Australia, but here they are at the MCG. No Australian players in sight. Didn't make the final. Sorry, off you shoot. And England winning some silverware at this ground.
One more thing. Anti-Hall of Fame, as the rain starts to trickle down, the Bureau of Meteorology. I mean, we were right. Everyone else was saying, it's a disaster. And look, we lent into that a wee bit because the Bureau said 100% chance of heavy rain. Like WinViz back at the 2016 World Cup when Bangladesh, India, and it caused them all sorts of trouble. They never do that anymore. Well, it was the same today. 100% chance of this game having some intervention from rain. And so it is. There was 2 brief showers, never threatened to take the players off. I'd rather think of it as the cricket gods felt a wonderful tournament. The best T20 World Cup so far. I don't think there's any really disputing that. It was a fabulous tournament.
One Antonio Samaranch said it. It's got to be true.
I am one on the winner is Sydney, the greatest Olympics of all time. I think this has been the greatest T20 World Cup. I mean, I must say I didn't follow the ones at the very start too closely, but this feels like those we've been at, Jeff, or we've covered last handful. This is head and shoulders above, and I actually think the rain helped. So glad it didn't rain today, but I think the rain earlier, counterintuitively, added to the drama of the group stage.
Right. That's it for us on the Final Word Daily for about 3 days before we have to start doing it for one day
We're on the road
internationals.
tomorrow morning.
We're driving to Adelaide as of tomorrow, so if you want to follow our adventures through rural Victoria and on to Adelaide and Sydney and Melbourne and the test matches after that and all the rest of it, stay tuned to the Final Word feed. If you want to help us keep making this show, patreon.com/thefinalword is where you sign up as a supporter.
We're going to have Cam Fink, who shot so beautifully what we did as our World Cup preview. If you've not watched it on YouTube, the words will be redundant, but the pictures, like that was superb. So we'll have him with us for the next little while, which will be pretty cool. We'll be doing summer shows. We'll be doing daily shows throughout the test summer. If they're of interest to you and you want to work with us on them, drop us a line at finalwordcricket@gmail.com. Lastly, just thank you to everybody for being so supportive. I mean, it's pretty clear that we've been crook at different points through the tournament. I've been crook 3 times. I probably had COVID at the start, lost my voice more times than I care to acknowledge, and it's been bloody hard at times, and no sob story, it just has been. And we've had wonderful support from everybody on Discord, on Patreon, who follows us on social media and watches and listens and enjoys what we do. So thank you to everybody for that. Thanks again to cbussuper.com.au for making it work on the financial side. Visit Victoria, and we're our partners at the start of the tournament as well.
That's it from us. Final Word, Jeff Lemon, Adam Collins. We'll see you next time.
Good day.